Welcome to International Securities Exchange's podcast series. Facilitated by renowned educators, ISE podcasts are intended to teach beginning as well as seasoned investors the ins and outs of trading. To find an updated list of podcasts, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts. Please be sure to listen to our important message following this episode regarding the risks of investing in exchange-traded options.
And what I want to do right now is definitely cover the market cycles before I get too ahead of myself. I get this urge to basically brain dump on everybody, and I kind of go off in too much of a tangent. So let's make sure we start with first things first, which is market cycles. Now, whether you are trading spot or options, or the FX options here, the bottom line is you have to know what the mood of the market is. And in very simple terms, you can think of the market as being happy, sad, bored, or confused. I know that's almost childlike in its simplicity, but I think I tend to want to go to the opposite side of the pendulum, which is uncomplicate. I think for whatever reason, traders like to overcomplicate, so I like to go to the other side, which is keep it as simple as possible. Happy, sad, bored, confused. That translates into markup, markdown, accumulation, and distribution. So a markup would be a happy market, an uptrending market. Markdown would be a sad market, a downtrending market. Now here's where it gets really interesting, and this is where it really applies to us as options traders. Bored and confused, because this is where we can really position ourselves well to take advantage of low volatility when we're buying our options. And those two market cycles are accumulation and distribution. Now, the way I recognize these, I could throw out terminology all day, but it doesn't do you any good if I don't get back to the application. So how do we recognize a bored or confused market? Well, number one, when I am what I call option shopping, I'm a gal, I like to shop like anybody else. So when I'm option shopping, and I'd rather be option shopping than shoe shopping or anything else. So when I'm option shopping, I'm looking for that bored or confused market, which is a sideways market cycle. All right. Now we're looking at a chart here of a 15-minute euro-US dollar. I don't know what your preferred time frame is, and to be quite frank, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to necessarily pick a very long-term or a very short-term chart. It's really what you're comfortable with. I will say that for me, options trading, I like trading off, say, a 240 or perhaps a daily time frame. That's my preferred time frame. But there are days that I'll pull up a 30-minute chart and play the market cycles and be a little bit more aggressive about my options buying. Okay? But for the most part, I'll find myself the time frames that I am trying to gauge the mood of the market on will most commonly be the daily and the 240, especially when it comes to options. Okay, so I kind of take a little bit bigger picture look, and that's what those time frames do for me. Now, I know that we have a chat window here, so let me bring that up. So there we go. That's what I needed. Okay, so let me go over a couple of questions here while I have this up. And let's see. I've been using the spot euro-US dollar when the trading, okay. There's no volume. I don't know that that's going to necessarily apply to what we're talking about here, because when I'm looking at the euro-US dollar, or the fiver as it's sometimes known, I'm looking at, for the options, I'm looking at the EUI, but I love this new EUU, because the EUU symbol, let's talk about the difference here real quick. Steve went over this briefly, but for the most part, you all are familiar with the typical convention. You have here the USD/EUR, which if you're looking at your Forex chart is going to be inverse, right? Which is not a difficult thing to negotiate. You're looking at whether the US dollar is gaining on the euro or whether the euro is gaining on the dollar. You can sort that out. But with this EUU symbol, now you've got it in the convention of the Forex pair, where, as Steve was mentioning, the base currency is the euro, and the second currency is the US dollar, and it's going to sync up directionally with what you would see on your Forex charts, which is kind of nice. especially if you're just starting off in options and you don't need that extra little tweak to have to contend with. But you have that option now across the fiber, the Euro US dollar, the Aussie US dollar, the cable, the British pound US dollar, and the Kiwi, the New Zealand dollar US dollar. So very excited about those new symbols. So a lot of you are going to be coming over to the options world from a spot perspective, and I try to keep that in mind because that's the way I came over from it. So most of our view of the Forex world is going to be from that spot, and then we're trying to determine at what points within a cycle, at what points within the market's mood, would I be better off with an option? And there's very specific times for my approach. By the way, if you're looking for other approaches as you gain more experience, or if you're interested in other ways of trading options, I cannot encourage you enough. Take advantage of the library here at the ISE. Take a look at some of the descriptions and the titles, and you'll see some really great option traders, traders in general on this site with very unique ways of looking at the market. The great point of having so many speakers at a site like this is you get to find the person who's most like your wiring. But I do like to add that before you get into trading an option, you really should understand the basics of how they move. And at the heart of that, if you begin with what I'm talking about here, as you progress in your options trading, or whether you decide just to kind of keep it simple and keep it the way I do, you'll get a better idea, you'll get a better feel for the pulse of the way options move and what you're trying to benefit from. What do I mean by that? What are you trying to benefit from? What is the unique advantage? What is the edge you have when you're trading options? For me, that edge, okay, is volatility, okay? Now, I'm going to have to deal with volatility, I'm going to have to deal with time, and I'm going to have to deal with my strike. Well, in terms of time, or more specifically, time decay, that's a part of the option that I have to keep in mind in terms of it eroding the value of my option. So that's a little warning. You know, I need to make sure that I leave myself enough time to let my plan work itself out before the time decay erodes the value of my option. I think strike is probably something we're all pretty familiar with because there is a certain point on the chart that we want to act at. Okay? For us, the point on the chart is going to be our strike price. And let me just mention, I'm not a big fan of in-the-money options. Okay? I like out-of-the-money options, sometimes way out-of-the-money options. Okay? And I'll get into that in just a little bit because it has a lot to do with volatility. What I'm trying to my edge in options is to take advantage of volatility. That's really what I'm trying to do because most of the time, if you're trying to take advantage of volatility with the spot, you're opening yourself up to potentially a lot of risk. So what I'm able to do with options, what you'll be able to do with options, is capitalize on that volatility without as much of that exposure to it. It's limited. You can cap it. You know what your worst case scenario is. And I don't know about you, but I like sleeping at night. And I don't know about you, but as a Forex trader, walking away from the market can be really difficult. You know, options let me walk away. Options actually let me get some sleep because we all know that insomniac trader out there, that insomniac Forex trader out there who can't walk away, glued to the market 16 hours a day. That was me once upon a time. And I don't want you guys to have to go through that like the way I did.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. To find more podcasts on options, stocks, alternative markets, and market data, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts.